Actually looks like it worked. I give up. Good evening, everyone. We're still messing around with this thinking, figuring out which one's which for the stream thing. Like my main one now is on vertical, and it shouldn't be, but okay. Just gonna live with it. Start out the day, we'll sharpen a couple tools and get rolling. And that will be set for a spindle gouge, not a hole gouge. Always helps. Nice, quick and easy. Sharpen. A couple little pieces of Bradford pear. They're small, about 6 inches in diameter. A little less than 6, but somewhere thereabouts. We're going to make these two natural edge. So we're going to try and get things in the right plane right off the bat. As in the top wings being the same height or close to it. It's nowhere near round. All I did was knock the outside corners off. I called that good enough. Clean the face shield up a little bit so you can see what the heck we're doing. So we set our heights to rest heights. In my case, it's really easy because there's a step collar on there. Start out slow, looking for vibration. Unfortunately, we're picking that up about somewhere around a little less than 1,000. Still not quite there. Lovely torn grain going that direction. Oh, looks like side to side we're pretty even. One more little cut. It's in balance so we can go at the speed we want. That should be good. Huh, that's weird. It's on both sides. A little wants to chew it up a bit. Not really going the wrong, necessarily totally the wrong direction there, but for whatever reason it doesn't like it. So we'll flatten off our bottom. Take care of our little razor blade. Don't feel very flat. A little bit of a, we got to go just a little bit deeper. There's still a little bit of pith in there. Can't have that. I should take care of it. No, not quite. Good evening. I'm looking at this dark streak. That's the center of the log. I think we're going to get on just a bit more. Can't have, I don't want that in my foot. The foot's going to be about that, probably about that big, so it's got to go away. I got it. So now we can think about the size of the foot, see if the bigger size is going to be okay. That's where we're going to go to start with. Always take it off, can't put it back on, so I'm going to switch to a rest too. Almost need one in between, the short one and the tall one, but I think we'll get away with a short one. Look, I'm getting rid of some of the corners. It's looking a bit little on the big size for the foot. Took care of that torn grain in one shot. Always a plus. Get that curve to go in from there up. So, go to our spindle gouge and see what we get. How are we doing tonight, Todd? I have 100 people watching right now. For real? Yeah. Okay. That's something new. Definitely for sure. Okay, I'm not necessarily liking, not liking, totally liking the shape so far. It's a little squarish to me. Switch to a gouge that's a little bit longer, shorter on the grind. If I can get in there to that corner. Take a little more off of this outside corner and try and fade away up into nothingness. Better, still not quite there. One more little shot. I think we're going to be happy with that. We're going to live with that, put it that way. Grab the scraper and we'll get in there nice and tight in that corner. And maybe clean up the bottom of this tenon a little bit. Make it look like a foot. Thank you, Todd. See whether we got that good enough. This should be good. Unfortunately, we do have to sand things a little bit. Be nice and quick and easy. Should be nice and quick and easy. Because we did our job right to start with. The sanding time will be quick. At least that's the plan. What's up, Billy? Put sand in there first. Kind of one of the probably the only downfall using the actual tenon as your foot is you have to sand this a little bit by hand. Yeah, I got a couple of them. This stuff's actually even dry, pretty much dry. At least it's turning like it's dry, put it that way. Been around for quite a while. In a log, I just cut them off. A little bit of Bradford pear. Hopefully it's dry enough to sand it and finish it all in one shot. At least that's the plan. I'll sand this entire thing in up against this foot while I'm here. And then as I power sand, I don't have to worry about remembering whether I did or didn't. We did a good job everywhere else, cutting wise. This is a kind of a secondary kind of thing. So that's straight up through 400. Also, since we did a good job on the cutting, we started at 150. We are sanding in reverse. As you can see, the dust goes right straight into the hose. Keeps us from flying up in my face. We're floating around in the area. We'll wipe with an old paintbrush. Gets rid of any of the little pieces of grit that might be left behind. So that's right up through 400. That's where we stop at. I'm going to touch it up just a little bit around that bottom foot area. The piece is 600 because it has a tendency to leave a bit of a line of where I sanded from by hand and versus power sanding. At least it appears to be a little bit of a line. Anyhow. So that's our inside or outside done. We're ready, actually technically ready for finish. Move a couple things so the tailstock don't send things flying. It's a downfall of it's a great thing to have a long bed lathe, but your always tendency is to sit stuff behind things, sit it on the lathe bed. Not always a great place to put them, but it is a bad habit and habit that I definitely have. One difference is what you don't see is my tools come out of that handle very quick and easy. So they're not laying on the bed of the lathe in the handle. So much less likely to knock them on the floor. And if they do, they generally don't bounce back up and hit me in the leg or something stupid. If we did our job right, this should almost go totally closed. So it should give us, and we'll go up and down with the grain. Actually, it looks a little big. It might leave a mark. We'll see before we go. No, it still doesn't really leave a mark. One of the things I sort of made this made a little bit of a groove. So this little groove, these are dovetailed, so they'll actually go down in that groove. I don't really need any support to make anything flat in that area. So it works quite easily. I can go back to my longer tool rest. Bring the piece up, make sure we get the whole way across. I don't have to worry too much at the size of this little guy. Let's see. Let's bring one over just a smidgen. You see a little bit more of the tool handle. Forward we go. Made a big change, so we're going to slow down. Make sure nothing looks out of whack before we bring it up to the speed that I'm going to turn at. That's right, Todd was asking me the other week about this little light. See if I still have it plugged in. Yep. It's not going to show much today, I don't think. Not right at the moment anyhow. See if I can knock it off and send it flying. Almost looks like could have left the dust collector on now. Certainly a little dusty. Drop it down just a little bit more. So this is a natural edge, so I got to get my body around to where I can see. I tried to explain this to a couple people I was teaching the last couple days. My right hip is up against the lathe, so I can look directly down on the piece. Sort of right eye inside, left eye outside. And you can make a nice cut, clean cut, generally speaking. So we'll leave that somewhere in that area, a little less than 3/8 of an inch. Don't need to go super thin. People are afraid to touch them when they're super thin, so no point in doing it. Drop some more material down. Nice little bites when it counts. Take half of that again. Back out, find my bevel, find my cut. Behind that ridge. Go through the ridge and drop it down a bit. These little ones are kind of we're going to go down a little bit further. Leaving my steps each and every single time. Well, I don't have to think about picking a cut up. I just drop right back into that little groove, and we're ready to go. Now we're going to stop and make sure our eye is cooperating tonight, and it is not. We're fattening up a little bit. Always good. Nothing wrong with that. It's actually a good thing. We can always take more off, but it's a little challenging to put it back. We're being a little aggressive right there. So we're going to make a nice one clean cut, nice light touch. Come up a little bit higher than what that groove was originally. Get my shaving. Follow the outside profile into the corner. See whether we're at that place yet, the right place. We're sweeping my curve a little bit quicker than I need to be. So it's not really going to show. Well, there's a tiny little ridge right there that I didn't quite pick up behind. Actually, almost looks like I'm a little on the heavy-handed side all the way around tonight. That should do it. Here's when you got to pay attention to where your hand's at, for sure. Very close to that edge that's swinging around. Should be one last check and we'll get rid of the middle. Or not. No, we thickened up. Nothing wrong with that. Get rid of the rest of this middle and then we'll blend everything together. And I could have, should have. Since we're going to go across the middle in there, I can bring the tool rest in. See whether that wire is going to grab. Nope. It's kind of one of the reasons. I mean, it's kind of a neat little light to have. It's not really the right shape of tool rest in some ways. It does illuminate down below, which is fine for me, because that's generally where I'm looking at anyhow. Because I am tall. So we'll just square up the bottom. And then we'll make it a nice even curve. At least that's the plan. And nice and slow. Should be the last cut. So I want it to be as clean as possible. I don't like to sand anybody any better than anybody else. Shouldn't leave the sandpaper thing sitting there, and I just filled it up with chips. Never a good situation. I left a ridge. Fingers tell all. When your fingers down, tiny little ridges up here that'll sand away quick enough. But here's a big lump. I got to come back up in here and make that a much better curve than what it is. So we'll take our time. Swing that curve. Don't necessarily need to make it any deeper than what it already is. Right to center. And then we'll see. Felt like it got it, and it did. So that's the inside done. And we're back to the same old scenario of doing our favorite pastime in sanding. As you saw on the outside, it doesn't take very long. If you're once you get it figured out how to cut properly, that's an interesting dark mark there. It's almost looks like it burned it a little bit for some reason. It's kind of strange that it would do that, but always plenty of strange things happen. The real key is there's no torn grain. That we have to start out sanding at a very, very low grit. It's a very bad move to leave that sanding bin out there where I did. Because I threw all the chips all over my sandpaper. Velcro sandpaper and chips do not get along. Actually, they get along too well because the daggone chips want to stick fast to it. This particular pad is seen its better days, of course, but instead of it being as big as the sandpaper, it's a little bit smaller than the sandpaper, and this has a radius edge. So when I do the smaller bowls like that, this is the one I'm going to use. First order of business, we're going to go over these wings. That's going to be the place that's most of our little ripples are going to be. Get our paintbrush, wipe out our dirt. Make sure that we didn't leave anything behind in that. A little bit there yet. Just on the, it looks like just on the one side. And if you're not comfortable, I should say, if you're not comfortable of sanding something like this while it's spinning, you certainly could sand this whole thing just like that while it's not even running. Because you do have to be careful. Fingers are pretty close to these wings. Just lighten up the pressure when you get out close to the wing. And you stand right over them. Sand the whole thing by power. Of course, this grit's going to be the longest sand that we're going to have. We're getting rid of any imperfections is the plan. Any disturbed grain or anything such as that. From here, we're just refining scratches, so it'll take a whole lot less time each time. So that was 150 on to 220. $320. Last but not least will be 400. That should be it. This time we'll be smart enough to put the sandpaper away. It has its own little bin, little storage bin to put it in, so I was just being, what do you want to call it, lazy and dumb in the first one. So that's ready to finish. I'm going to take this chalk off anyhow, so we just might. Now that I sat it down, I said we were done sanding, but we're not. You can get a fresh piece of 320 and 400. It left some scratches up on the wings that I just saw that do not suit. So we'll just go back after that. Just that little area. We'll do it without it even running. I won't even turn the dust collector on for that, so it won't be much. Maybe it will be. I've sucked enough dust the last couple days to last me a while. Do not have dust collection at the store. At least not for the Lays. So they're gone. And we'll hit with a little bit of 400. Helps if you get the pad remotely close to the middle. And there, we're going to spin it again, do the last grip with it spinning. And it does appear the bark is going to stay on. At least it seems like it's good and tight, so that's definitely a plus. Certainly not something that happens overly often. It's probably because of the fact that this has sat around so long in the log that it actually has dried. It dried slowly, very, very slowly, because of the being still in the log. I don't really remember. Oh, I think this actually was cut in the wintertime too. If I remember right, there was a date on it. So I had left no marks in that little groove in there from the chuck. We already sanded that, so everything's ready to finish. It will take about the 2 minutes worth of time it's going to take to finish it. Take me more time to switch chucks around than anything. Pieces of foam are not sticking very well from my double-sided tape anymore. One of these for class wants to stick to the inside of the bowl instead. I have to keep chasing my piece of foam. We won't be removing the tenant, or well, there really isn't. Oh, really? Oh, you gotta be big enough. Just big enough. I just have to hold it. That's all I have to do. Be able to put it in there. Really should take the time to make one for the bigger jaws, because it seems to be the jaws I use more often anymore. Then I wouldn't have to change chucks. But you can't be that intelligent all the time. Of course, we'll be using my finish of choice, which will be the Parfix 3408 slow setting super glue. One coat and we'll be done. And then some other day this week. Most likely not tomorrow, because I didn't get any. I basically haven't been home in time any of the last 4 days to get the grass mowed. So I'll get mine mowed, my dad's mowed, especially my dad's. His is going to be really long compared to mine. Nice liberal coat, especially up around this bark area. That's going to go in there and soak into the bark and the bottom of the edge of the bark and really seal it fast. Bark is always wonderful. It wants to tear the paper towel to go with it, but it is what it is. This has a 40-second time delay on it, so we're not in any big hurry, especially on something this size. We're really looking for it to get it totally saturated, and then we'll wipe off the excess. Make sure I get down in my little groove. In this case, in my case, the bottom of the very bottom of that foot, once this stuff is set up and cured, then whatever day I have time later this week, I will put it back on the chuck. The chuck will actually go into the tailstock, and I will grab a hold of it and hold it with a vacuum chuck. Certainly not something you have to have, but they're nice. I don't own cold jaws. Well, they wouldn't do cold jaws would do me very little good, because of a lot of the stuff that I do is this fashion, more natural edge than flat rim bowls. It's just kind of what I like to do. Also looks like I could have done a little better job sanding. I see some scratches. Most people wouldn't see them. Little activator, 2 little squirts of activator at a distance, not up close and personal. Rubber pad does pain my butt. So that's the inside done. Or the outside done, yeah. Don't know the way my directions in and out, but I see lots of people, or I shouldn't say lots of people, I see some people loosen that chuck up and then hit the lathe, turn the lathe in reverse and take it off. I've done it a couple times. It does work quite nice and easy, right up until you forget the part of turning it in, putting it in reverse. And now you have a hold of a chuck that actually went forward on you. It's a little bit enlightening. So I just kind of gave up on that habit very quickly, at least for me. So we do the same inside, same way we just did the outside. A little piece of polyester felt goes in this paper towel. Acts as my little reservoir, keeps it a little less messy. You can see my glove, life expectancy of a glove is not super long. but they're not exactly expensive. So we're using plenty. Inside will take less than the outside because all the pores are closed up from the other side. Because this stuff soaks in quite a ways. A lot more than you'd ever give it credit for. And since they're small, this is where I would start. This is what I recommend if somebody wants it and would want to purchase it and start using it. Start out small. Also is going to pull out any of the excess dirt. We could have used a paper towel before that, which would have been a good idea, but just like the outside, we'll go and wipe off the excess. Gonna go the whole way around it. You can see it pulled more off. I'm gonna flip my paper towel the whole way around because I wiped something off the bed of the lathe. I'm not sure what it was, so don't want to try and embed that in there. I want this surface to be dry. I don't want to leave anything left behind on the surface. All I'm interested in is what went below the surface into the pores of the wood. So when you pick up a bowl like this or anything like this, you're actually still touching the wood rather than the finish that somebody put on it, which is kind of a nice thing, I think. I'll leave a glove on. So that's one done. Sit it over here somewhere off to dry. Another one that's smaller. I'm going to try something different on the second one. A little bit different. As in, that's another way of grabbing a hold of something like that. This is kind of going to be a first for me doing it on a natural edge piece. This piece is actually very flat. So that's why I decided I would try it on this. I drilled a hole in it. It has a 2 1/8 inch hole. The hole's drilled fairly deep, especially for you to look at, but I got to get through the bark and the cambium layer to get down into solid wood, which I did. So the shark jaws is where it's at when it comes to this by far. I'm just going to get it started. Just snug it up a little bit, because I should be able to have enough room to still be able to manipulate it a little bit. It doesn't need to be a lot. So I can loosen it up and I can actually kind of move it, go the right direction. Will help. Just ever so slightly move, reclamp it in the jaws and check it again. That's good that way. Who knows what we'll run into on that. So that would be another sort of still in between centers for the most part. It will bring a tailstock up for a little extra support. It would be kind of dumb not to, in a way. I mean, the people that are production turners, they wouldn't bother with that. I have a tendency to try and stay on the safer side of things for me. It's relatively close. Making sure nothing's going to hit. That's why we always spin it by hand. Stand off to the side. Especially when you're doing stuff with bark on it. So we picked up a bit of vibration in that area. We're just going to go a little bit faster. And we'll just make a nice little cut This thing only has the corners basically taken away. It should take probably at least two cuts to get down to the round area. Also why the shower curtains are there behind me, because all those chips that are coming off of there are landing on the shower, hitting the shower curtains. So we're good on the high point, low point. Low point actually looks like it needs moved towards me. Oh, that's going to be the issue. That's also an area that Mr. Raffin never talks about. Evidently, maybe he doesn't worry about it. I think we're going to leave it alone myself. I'm not sure how I can move it. So if I release the pressure, yeah, I can't anymore mess things up. So if I release that pressure, release the tailstock will help. Should be able to tilt it, maybe. Tilt it a little bit that way. See whether this, here's where I'm probably not going to like it, because it probably threw this top part out as well. Huh, that was luckiness. Okay. Nice and tight. Tailstock still remains in place. See if we can get a little bit of that bark on that side off, just to try and even things up a little bit more. If not, in this case, it's probably just going to be like, okay, that's what it's going to be. I like them to be as even as I can. This log must be way out of whack. It's taking more off of there, way more off of there than there. It may even itself out a bit once we get rid of some of this corner out here. Corner's gone. Bottom is not flat yet, so we'll flatten that out. Same dark streak. I just sawed these right before the stream on the bandsaw and tried to go right straight down through the pith, but it left a little bit there. Also a little bit of a branch over there. Flatten this out and see what we got. This one will be very shallow. I think this whole thing was this wasn't a base of a tree. This is more of a branch of a tree. Don't really like that. I know it's character, but it's also going to be involved in my tenant. I'll take it down just a shade more, see what we got. They have a tendency to open up, or worse yet, fall out. And somewhat still there, but there's a little, kind of like a little, looks like a little branch there, so that very well could be the same thing. So I'm not going to get past it at all. Could clean up the surface a little bit better in there. Make life a little easier. Probably stick with the same size tenant once, see what it looks like. So left leg touches, right leg matches up with it. It's just an eyeball thing. I really can't see the right side. I can get my body in a position that I can semi-see it. So it'll start forming our curve. Drop it down through our tenant. Reposition the tool rest a little bit. Do it. Little piece of bark wants to come off. Other than that, it actually ended up, it got small enough that the two low points actually don't look too bad. That's a plus for sure. Usually it wants to do just the opposite. So while we're here, we'll finish our tenant or foot. Try and get it nice and smooth out and away from it. Curve that side over. Dig the point of the spindle gouge in, drop the handle and come up over. And do that spectacularly. If you're really nice and gentle, you see the teeny tiny little shavings you get off of it, it will actually leave it very clean. Take a step back and look. It's just kind of like a little bit like the last one. So I'll go with shorter angle on the nose of my bowl gouge. It's going to allow me to get in there a little bit closer. Still maintaining bevel contact so I have a nice clean cut. Once it's away from there, it doesn't matter. It's just no point in stopping the motion. So the fact of being able to change back to the gouge that I was using. And right off the end. Take a peek, see what we did. We might actually use a scraper on this one because it doesn't, I can't necessarily get totally tight in there and against there, so we use something a little bit different in there. Tool rest comes up a bit. Not a real big bit. This is a traditional scraper. Let's see whether it'll cut. I'm not sure. I thought I had this sharp before I took it along to the classes. Now it's sharp. So that allows me to get right in there to that corner. Takes that last little bit out. If there's any other little bits that need a little dressing, we can do that. I just a little hesitant out on the part that's actually natural edge. It's not going quite fast enough right at this moment to go up onto that area. And it's clean enough up there already, so I don't need to really have to worry about it. I'm more concerned on what this curve looks like. It's kind of, I think it's kind of abrupt for me. So take a little bit of that bulge away. You will actually be very amazed if you take the time to learn how to use the traditional scrapers. As you saw, that's actually a fairly good size cut for a non-gouge kind of a tool. Most woods it will actually cut very cleanly. This Bradford pear should be one of those, or not. Let's do up the end grain a little bit there. Not the end of the world. I could either go back to my gouge. In this case, I'll just drop it down a little, drop the tool rest back down a little bit, and we'll put this up on a bit of an angle. And we can slide up across there. Now that torn grain is gone. Tool rest has got some stuff on it or something. Doesn't want to slide very well. One of them things is a very gentle touch. I'm going to move the tool rest a little bit. It also wants to slide along nice and freely. And I don't try and do a big area at one time. It's much more beneficial to take the 2 seconds out to move the tool rest. Because if you get in the wrong position, this will act just like a skew. So a little bit. If I get up beyond center of it, it will slam back down just like if it was a skew. And it is very violent when it does it. That's got it. Back to the favorite pastime, of course. Oh, wait. Actually, no, it's not down to that yet. I forgot it's still in the chuck. Wasn't thinking along those lines. I'm not used to doing it that way. It's definitely a serious advantage to doing it that way, if we can. Because now we can actually finish this bottom off. And I know eventually I'm going to need my scraper, so I might as well just do it with the scraper right from the start. We certainly can take that last little bit of that nub off just as easily as we could cut it off with the gouge. Undercut this and make sure it's smooth. Always pays to stop and check. Nope, not quite enough. It wants to sit on the outside edge. So we need a little bit more out of that center. Get out here to this area. Can give it a little decoration. Sneak that point in. Go to the center. And now we have just a little decoration. You could also go back up on its edge to make sure that is nice and smooth. It just gives it a tiny bit of decoration. We could just put some lines in there as well. That would work just as well. So now we're back to our favorite pastime. Last time I did it with 2-inch. I can do it with a 3, I think. So we'll flip over to reverse. This time we'll be smart enough to do the little foot area first. And the base. If you were so minded, you could do the whole thing with hand sandpaper. I just sort of choose not to. The natural edge would be a little bit more challenging. It would almost be better if you had some sort of a pad or something in between your fingers. But it can be done. I'm using the cut edge. This sandpaper is folded in half. So it's little, just I use little pieces. It works better for me. It's sheet sandpaper. So I have it set up that it cuts it in pretty much perfect little squares. I get like, thinking either 9 or 12, I think 12 little pieces out of one sheet of sandpaper. It's just like our cutting tools. Dull sandpaper is dull sandpaper. It doesn't get to a finer grit. It's just dull. So when you have a tendency, I see people like in my classes and things like that, if this piece of sandpaper is big, which is what they like because they're sort of don't want their fingers involved in too much, they have a tendency to use it way too long. This time we'll use the 3-inch sander because it already has the flat pad on it. And there's enough room for me to get there. Also, it's going to give me a little bit more support out there on that wing area. Stop and see what we got. A lot of times, I want to run my finger up across there because there'll be quite often that you'll end up with a little bit of a dip up in that area. Just like we did on the inside, there's nothing stopping us from going around that edge a little bit without the machine running. And then we'll just proceed on. Lighter pressure up the top. The drill's bouncing around, it means you got too much pressure on it. Once it starts to get smooth, it starts to get a shine to it, which is always a plus. And that was 320. 400. This time before we move it around, we're going to inspect a little better than I did the last time. Because up in here is where I had scratches on the other one. So I see one there. That's all right. So I mean that certainly is another option if you have the equipment to drill that. The problem is you're limiting a little bit limited on how much you can maneuver that safely. As you saw, I wanted to move it in two separate directions, so I think that's fine. That's definitely a nice quick way of doing it for a flat rim type of a bowl. I have a whole bunch of pieces already drilled. This time I'm going to leave a dust collector on for just a minute because the other half of that piece is literally standing in a cloud of dust. I don't want to stand in a cloud of dust. So let's see whether the gouge from the other one is still has an edge to it. We spin by hand, made a big change, so we slow down. And then we're going to go back up to whatever speed that we so choose. Forgot my little light. It's pretty good. I've never really used this much now. Now that somebody asks about it, it's like, oh, I could use that all the time. It would actually work better if I had one of the rests that were more straight up and down in the back. This is a robust rest and they're not, so. Like I said on the last one, you see the steps. This makes life a whole lot easier if they're there. Now I can turn the dust collector off. Because I know the dust collector does interfere with the mic a little bit. So we're not very far down yet. We'll drop down further. Because it feels like I'm not necessarily going in as straight of a line, or following the outside curve as well as I could be, or should be. That gouge is definitely not as sharp as what it could be. Just so happened in my world I have two of them that are identical. So I'll switch over to the one that I know hasn't been used at all yet. I'll make that final pass down to that little area there. Always pays to stop and check. Make sure things feel the way you would want them to feel. Do enough of these and get your body in the right place. You can see the thickness as you go down. At least go down to where you get back into solid wood. Put it that way. It's kind of a neat thing to see in some ways. Once again, drop down. Now we got to get into the gentle mode. Find our cut before we move forward. There we go. We're going to make that curve. Once again, I'm still looking with my left eye on the outside, even at that point, especially when they're this small. Just to be able to visualize that more so. Just got to keep in mind this is very shallow, so don't get carried away. It's also a branch coming up through there, so hopefully we don't have any excitement of a branch that's going to leave a hole or something stupid. Can bring the tool rest in. Kind of a situation of why not. At this point, I'll pretty much take all these steps straight across, so that I don't dig it down any really deeper than what I already am. Because I can always go back and readjust like I just did there. I left a ridge there. I kind of left that on purpose because I want to feel with my fingers a little bit and say, "Yep, yeah, okay, we're on the right track. It's the right sort of curve." I can feel right where that ridge is at inside. Is nice even thickness the whole way down to there, and it's also starting to thicken up a little bit across the bottom, which is good. It's a little easier to take things off than it is to put them back. So nice little cuts. Because we're in the middle, it's going slower. Let's take that one last one down a little bit. I didn't quite get that line on the first shot, so I automatically stopped and went back to accommodate it. Because this should be the last cut going across there. Keyword is should be. Probably won't be, but should be. Won't be. No, I was a little too quick on my curve. I was more concerned because I kept seeing dark streaks down there. They're about the right thickness. I just left there's a hump right here to here. Pretty simple solution of eliminate the hump. And sort of fade that away to nothing, or just about to nothing. Gotta give that a feel. Almost feels like I left a dimple, which I did. Left a little bit of a concave surface in the very bottom. So I'll have a real nice Just gotta be happy with my fingers. So I was trying to explain to a couple of the people yesterday in my class that it's got to feel nice to your fingers. Still left ridge right there. The shape of this one is not quite what I like for some reason. Looked all right on the outside, but I'm gonna play with it one more time. Really nice light touch. So we should be able to pick up on that. Nice, gentle, flowing curve that disappeared. So I didn't need to go any deeper, and that's got it.
You can see a difference in where I stopped or was cutting and where I just cut that last little bit, but that's the way it is as far as that goes. It's cut cleanly. Is there little ripples in there? Of course, but it's cut cleanly the whole way through. There's no torn grain or anything like that. It just means instead of starting with 150 in there, we'll probably start with yeah. Instead of starting with 150 or 180, I'll start with 120. I mean, in theory, you probably could still start with 150 or something like that, but it becomes an issue of, why go the extra effort when I don't need to? I can just simply drop back one grit. It's not like I'm getting graded for it. Gotta get the chips off the piece of sandpaper though. Only downfall of Velcro back sandpaper is if you drop them on the floor or something like that into the chips, they have a tendency to be a problem. Just like the last one, I'm going to stand up on this wing. But I know from doing enough of these, this is where there'll be issues, if there is any real issues. There's also some ripples up there, as I wasn't quite taking the time that I should have. And eliminate them by a lighter touch. So it's going to need a little bit more sanding in those areas before we fire it up and start to run with it. It's definitely a line below it, but that's okay. That one's easy enough to go away. Because when you're sanding up in this top little bit of the area, you're going to be putting a lot less pressure on it and being a lot more careful. So that's where you'll miss things, sanding wise. Not sure what that dark ring is, but there it went. That was a little bit of a compression line or something. The longest amount of sanding is always on the first grit. We got to remove any and all imperfections that we see on the first go around as we spin it around into the light. It's like we could do a little better on the very dead center, but I'm not going to worry with that with the coarser grit. I heated the glue up on my little pad, which is never a good thing. Not quite sure why the manufacturers of these style pads. I don't know why they feel the need to use a heat activated adhesive, knowing full well that you may very well generate some heat from sanding, and it loosens them up, softens them up. Probably really is more of an issue of they know they can sell more of them. As for me, some of these pads are actually quite old, as in quite a number of years old. I try not to abuse them. And if you notice, I go over to the right side first. I also come right back across the center, back over to the left side. When I come back over to the left side, that would basically be like turning the lathe off and turning it in reverse, which a lot of people like to recommend to do sanding wise. If you do it like that, then it's basically the same thing. Because the wood is coming up into the sandpaper. Come over here, I dropped it down. It's being sanded on the bottom part of the pad and through the center. A little quicker, a little cleaner cut when you do it that, or a little cleaner sand when you do it that way. And that's it. That's all she wrote. Sanding complete. Especially in this one on to finishing. I won't have anything else to do to the very bottom of it except sign it. This time I'm going to be always a good idea to take a paper towel. Paper towel is almost like using one of the I do have some of them there. I could use one of them. Something to get the excess dust out of there, because there's a lot in there. We'll take it out. I do have one here that's not that. No. Of course not. Trying to look, see if I would have something big enough. Don't think I do. That's a little chunk of ash. It's kind of maybe looking a little distracting, but we might as well, since we're at it and we got time. Yes, we got time. So we'll just make a new little, don't bang into everything. Use our skew as our means to make it round. Ash is not overly friendly to do that with. You see it's going to peel it up. But for what it is, I really don't care. I just want to place, hopefully, with just a very shallow tenon. Get rid of the razor blade aid without doing that. That's what you call being dumb enough not to move your body. I need to move my body to my left. Pick up that cut. Knock that little razor blade off there. It should be enough of a shoulder. We'll see. If it's not, then it might just stay square. And we'll just round that over, and it is, oh, you little burger. Yeah, of course not. So much for that bright idea. Sounded like a plan. Wasn't quite the plan that we had in mind. That's okay. It'll live with it. So we'll just round that over a little bit so that it's not such an abrupt, sharp edge. And we have more than enough gouges. I will just use our bowl gouge to round that over. Come around the corner, and I will undercut it a little bit so that it's more of a donut shape. It's not totally round back here either. about that. Not that it really matters, but that'll work. Should work. Yeah, close enough. You just need to take the time to actually make another one from there. The other ones are made out of resin. I don't have any resin poured to do such a thing as that right at the moment. A little piece of foam. Actually, that piece over there will work. That was already out. A little piece of tape. You could even just use some paper towels in there. That would work just as well. Or a little bit of the shelf liner or something to keep it from digging in. That's really all it is. Just the tape's just there to keep it where where I want it to be. We do have a little wooden piece with a piece of leather on the end, over the end, to go on there. All we're doing is holding it in place to be able to finish it. We're not going to spin it or anything like that, so that's all we need for that. A couple paper towels, a little piece of felt, glove. Did wipe off the inside. We might as well wipe off the outside a little bit. When you don't wipe it off, you can see there's quite a bit comes off. You can have a little bit of dust and dirt that sticks there, and it means it's going to take a little bit longer when you go to buff it, or you may have to actually go over it just a little bit with some 800 grit sandpaper. Not the end of the world. It's not really that big of a deal, but that 20 seconds that I just took there to wipe it off with a paper towel, it's a little easier than resanding something by hand, even though it doesn't take forever or anything like that, but still would be extra effort. Eliminate a little bit of a step if we can. You see I'm really saturating up around the bark. We'll come back to that again. Give it a couple seconds for it to soak in. The bark will soak a lot of it in. I do not go over the top of the bark as well. For me, somebody asked me that the other week. They saw me finishing one like this. I don't go over that bark on this top edge. I don't. To me, that should remain dull and natural. So I don't try and make it unnatural, I guess you would call it. It's not shiny in nature. So to me, why make that shiny otherwise? So the wood part is totally saturated. I think I got the bark as best as I can get it. This is the wonders of having a 40-second delay on before it starts to set up. As long as there's that amount on there, it'll even give you longer than 40 seconds. And we'll start wiping it off. As I wipe off the first go around, you're always spreading it around more, especially if it was on something bigger. You see there's still dirt being pulled out of it. And make sure I get down in the little groove of that little bead. That one there, I saw it. There is a teeny tiny little mark down in that groove on this one. The only person would ever see that would be another wood turner that was really looking to find something wrong with your piece of work, because they're very, very small, and they are actually down in that groove. They're not something up on the surface, up on the top rim of it. Dry it off. We'll hit it with a little bit of activator. Really only need like one shot. You really only would need one shot. But I'm like 18, 20 inches away to spray that. And I'm spraying up here so it just lands on it, which is what I want it to do. Knock everything down. This kind of, in some ways, just became a one-time use. Not really. I could still grab it back in there. I would just have to re-true it up every single time. So that's not gonna be what we'll do with it. We'll actually take the time one of these days to make one. Can be made out of wood. Doesn't need to be made out of resin by any means. Resin ones are nicer because they never move. But that would require me to do some work that I don't necessarily want to do. As in get all the stuff out to pour one lonely thing of resin. I might actually be able to look around here and find a failure that I could do it with. As I look in my drawer, there is a couple failures that were as far as pouring for resin, so yeah, maybe we'll make one of these days. Once again, bark edge first. Less glue on the inside than the outside. So our piece of wood is nothing more than quite a number of thousands of little straws going across there. The outside has now been, in this case, the outside has now been closed up. It has nowhere to go. It can't soak through to the other side. You can't have that natural sort of vacuum, I guess you would call it. So it will take less on the whatever side you do second. In my case, I pretty much always do the outside first and then the inside. It just works a little easier, because if I was to do the inside, I'd have to wait to be able to jam that up against something like that. Because if you put any amount of pressure on it, we could sort of squeeze some of that glue back out. It's also why I don't finish the outside when I'm done sanding it. That's a mistake you only make once or twice too, is that if I was to do, you say, well, the outside was sanded, why didn't you put finish on it then? And the reason being is that we didn't turn the inside. I do turn it at a pretty good pace as far as the speed of the lathe goes. So I mean, when I did the inside, that was it's about 17 or 1800 RPMs. That's more than enough centrifugal force on the outside to have started to push some of the glue back out, or try to. And then we would have had a whole nother scenario of having to sand that little bits off. There's number 2. It needs signed. Put a little bit of glue on there, and then it'll get buffed. And they'll be done. Nice simple little projects to do. Quick and easy, which is what I like. Nice and quick, nice and easy. Other than that, I think we're going to call it a wrap tonight. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Feel free. Otherwise, we're going to call it a night. Go get another little snack of some sort. Oh, thanks, Todd. And we are here pretty much every Sunday night around 6 o'clock Eastern time. Try and do something different each week. Sometimes it's just a matter of what I have that I sort of feel that I need to do for my own work. so I try not to do too many repeats. But till next time, you all have a good night, and thanks for coming by and watching.